Christians who are critics of polygamy recognize the polygamy is found in the Bible but make certain excuses for it. They claim that God only tolerated the practice like slavery and divorce, but it was never commanded, accepted, or endorsed by God. It is true God sometimes accepted practices that were not preferred like divorce. It is directly stated in the scriptures that divorce was not something God endorsed, like in Mark 10:2-12. There is no polygamy equivalent to this passage in the scriptures. Critics suggest Exodus 21:10 and Deuteronomy 21:15-16 is only instructing that if a man has a slave wife, and desires another, he should not cast away the slave wife. This allowance is just for the protection of the slave wife from abuse, neglect, and poverty. Though true, God could have instead said that the man of a slave wife could not have another wife. God is not one to avoid saying no to people in the scriptures. Critics will find any excuse to reject polygamy. Some may suggest polygamy is adultery, such as this example as you see. How could it be adultery? If Joshua is married to Sophia and Heather, who is he cheating on? The only way Joshua could cheat on either of them is he was with another woman who was not his wife. The scriptures never equate polygamy with adultery. Adultery was punished by death in Leviticus 20:10 and Deuteronomy 22:22. Where is the evidence of anyone in the scriptures being accused or punished for adultery because they had more than one wife? Since none of the Bible writers equated polygamy with adultery, there is no reason we should do it for them. Another argument made is that polygamy in the Bible resulted in many problems. Well, duh. Where is it written that no problems would exist in polygamy? If this is a valid argument against polygamy, it is also a valid argument against monogamy. How many marriages today with one wife end in divorce? The fact that problems existed in polygamy is a given. The fact that negative things is spoken of is also a given. People tend to focus on problems in marriages of people than successes. The press rarely writes good articles on successful marriages by celebs. It is always the scandals and problems that get written about. Some of these examples here, however, had nothing to do with polygamy. The actions of David had nothing to do with him being married to more than one wife. He desired and had intimate relations with Uriah's wife and then had him killed to cover it up. Similar things have happened in our day of men who have one wife. Did polygamy really turn Solomon's heart, or was it something else? Before directly dealing with Solomon, it would be helpful to address Deuteronomy 17:16-17, which pertains the king of Israel and having more than one wife. Some suggest verse 17 teaches against polygamy. The king of Israel is not to multiply wives unto himself, but is this really saying the king can't have more than one wife? Verse 16 says the king should not multiply horses. Is this suggesting the king should only have one horse? Would really having more than one wife lead to the heart being turned away? Cannot even one wife cause the king's heart to turn away? The word translated as multiply does not mean more than one. It is the Hebrew word, rabah, and means things like many or numerous. The New American Standard Bible translates it as, and he shall not acquire many wives for himself, so that his heart does not turn away. The word carries a meaning of an excessive amount of something. Just as it was fine for the king to have more than one horse, it was fine for him to have more than one wife. The implication is just don't go overboard. Moving on to Solomon, the scriptures say Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Clearly an excessive number, but the text does not really state that the number of wives was his problem. It reports the number without judgment. It does say that he married women from nations that the Lord had forbidden, and they caused Solomon to turn his heart away from God. The number appears to be of little importance to the kind of wives he took. Even one wife from a forbidden nation could have turned his heart away. If Solomon had married many Israelite wives and they kept his heart towards God, there would not have been a problem. This text is less about polygamy but more about marrying the right kind of women. Another argument that is often made is that God designated monogamy as the ideal standard when he made Adam and Eve. God declared in Genesis 2:24, "A man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." This proves that God has always been against polygamy, the critics declare. This reads more into the situation than what is stated. Had God created 2 wives for Adam, that would mean polygamy the standard. Thus 1 wife would always be insufficient. Even in cases of polygamy, it usually starts with 1 wife and moves on from there. There is simply nothing in the text that says man could not have more than 1 wife. The fact that men like Abraham, Jacob, Moses, and others in the Bible had more than 1 wife means they did not read into the story of Adam and Eve what modern-day people are reading into it. If it's a choice between what modern-day critics suggest or what Abraham and others in the Bible understood from Genesis 2, I would side with those great prophets like Abraham. I am sure there are other arguments that can be made, but in my opinion these arguments against polygamy in the Old Testament are weak. Thank you for your time.